For those of you who are staying in the green and orange zones, welcome back to normal life. For those of you who are in the red zones, have fun, still stay at home. And for those of you who are fluctuating between the red and orange zones, just like me, I'd say let's just not get our hopes so high. We'll get started shortly. In the meantime, it would be great if you could introduce yourself in the chat so we know a little bit more about you. We have a few poll questions for you. You should be able to see them on your screens. Here was the first question. What stage of the business life cycle is your e-commerce business in? And the second one, are you an online only brand or do you have an offline presence too? Without any further delay, let's get started. The way that people buy has drastically changed over the past few weeks. The days of happily delivering packages were put on pause. Many are still wondering if we could ever go back to how things were. Let's make the best out of the situation in hand and be back in business to kickstart and make the best out of the situation in hand. The topic for today's webinar is how to grow e-commerce during COVID-19. The speakers of this webinar are Rohan Mittal, the co-founder and director of Adyogi, and Arvind Shivkumar, Chief Business Officer of PharmaShip. Please keep sending us your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom. We will be recording this webinar, so you don't have to worry. The same will be shared with you via the registered emails. Without further ado, let's get started. First, we have Rohan to talk about Adyogi.
Hello. Thanks, Priya. I hope everyone is doing safe and sound out of their houses. And hi, guys. This is Rohan Mittal. I'm one of the co-founders for Adyogi. And a little bit brief about Adyogi. It's a marketing automation platform driving performance for a lot of e-commerce brands. When I say performance, it essentially means that whatever amount of money we spend on behalf of our clients, every amount of that rupee is being used to generate more revenue on the website. And this is what we have been doing for the last 5 years. Fortunately, we have been top partners with all the major platforms like Facebook, Google, YouTube. So we understand the algorithms and the analytics of these platforms in and out now. And we are working with close to 100 retail brands, both offline and online, and growing well. So based out of Gurgaon, but serving clients all across the world. And I'll talk about my let's say the current COVID times, how we can scale ads. I'm sure a lot of you would have questions around it, but I'll let Arvind introduce himself and then we can jump right onto the panel discussions.
Thank you, Rohan. Next up, we have Arvind to talk about Vamaship.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming, taking out time uh, during the daytime. I think uh, a quick introduction is Vamaship. Is my name is Arvind Shivkumar. I've been associated with Vamaship since day one, being part of the founding team. Vamaship is essentially a technology platform operating as a logistics aggregator, where we work very closely with a lot of carriers with a core objective of simplifying shipping for e-commerce businesses. Not only e-commerce, in fact, online and offline businesses, and to ensure that they are able to get the best experience, best deliverables at the cheapest cost possible. We try to carve out solutions in terms of a business's shipping requirement, whether it's a B2C kind of a transaction or a B2B kind of transaction. Everyone's looking forward to ensuring that they're able to meet their end consumer, and to have a successful delivery is extremely essential. And so far, over a period of last 4.5 years, we've had a great journey, and we've grown as a team. And we closely work with about 17 partners in India. uh, Pretty much anything that it takes for anyone to sell, we are the backend to ensure that you are able to give the best kind of brand experience to your customers. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Arvind. We'll begin with the Q&A session soon. So keep the questions coming. We have some special offers running on Adyugi and Vamaship for the attendees of this webinar. So here's Adyugi's offer. And now we have Vamaship's offer. The contact details of the teams have been shared in the chat box. Let's get started with the Q&A session now. Um, so the first question is, with COVID situation in hand, there is uncertainty in deliveries. This will in turn increase the returns and other operational costs involved. How do you suggest we tackle this? I think Arvind, you can take this question.
Just to get it correct, in this COVID situation, and there is uncertainties in deliveries. Uh, well, deliveries are extremely essential now. It's extremely important that as a business, we know one, whom are we selling to. Currently, there is a lot of uncertainties in terms of whether can I ship a product or I cannot ship a product, whether my product classifies under an essential good or a non-essential good. There are prima facie, we need to be very sure about what your service partner can do, uh, who is operating in what area, and what is the kind of end result that they are seeing, what are the shortcomings that they are currently facing. So as an online e-commerce merchant, I would want to, one, understand better about my carrier in terms of which areas is he catering to, how are they operating on each of the zones, red zone, green zone, orange zone. what is the kind of impact that I could face? Should I be looking at a prepaid or a COD of as a service is something that I need to be very sure of. And prima facie try and target an audience where I know that I have a larger successful delivery. Now, what could be this kind of a audience? Maybe a green zone is like the best bet today, because I know that one, it's easier for the carrier to deliver, and there is a higher chance of a successful delivery. Second is, as an e-commerce merchant, I don't want an RTO. The probability of an RTO increases significantly. One, if it's a COD shipment. Second, if it's moving to an orange zone or a red zone. If it's essential, on a red zone can be delivered, a non-essential cannot be delivered. So essentially, if I am shipping to an orange zone, there is a higher likelihood that the area could end up becoming a red zone by the time the shipment reaches there. So it's important to, one, analyze each of the pin codes that your carriers are sharing as to day on day, where is that pin code? Is that pin code continues to remain in a green zone or an orange zone, or is it moving? And ensure that you are updating your pin codes on a daily basis. As much as possible, try and avoid doing COD shipments. One, COD has a larger challenge of uh, rejections, because one, the societies are today do not want entry of anyone exchanging cash. The field executives themselves are wary about whether should they receive cash. Possibly you can do COD if you know that your carrier, one, at the last mile can receive a digital payment, and your customer is savvy enough to make that digital payment. So pretty much you need to know what kind of shipment, what target audience that you want to reach out to, and what do you want to ensure. As much as possible, you have to work very closely with your carrier to know that, hey, you are going to be seeing a lot more successful deliveries. The costs are going to go up. There are carriers who are increasing are levying surcharges as well. There are carriers who are not levying surcharges. So I think these are factors which will help you manage your operations more effectively.
Okay, thank you, Arvind. So the next question is, while there are a lot of areas under the red and orange zone, some of these cities are fluctuating between the red and orange zones. How do we tackle the marketing activities? I think Rohan, you can take this question.
So I think we can break this into two parts. One is the people who are dealing in essential services. That's a big chunk of advertisers as well. So people who are in essential services, what we have now got some information is that they are able to deliver to all the pin codes. There have been some fluctuations around the red zones, but at least at the government level, at a policy level, everybody is supportive that essentials have to reach to all the corners of the country. So things are improving on ground for them. There might be certain pin codes where they're not able to deliver right now, but they should keep continuing their marketing activities for Pan India, and hopefully with time they'll be able to have a good delivery efficiency as well. Now when it comes to non-essentials, it's a tricky spot to be in right now, but with regards to your green and orange zones, I think brands should still go active in doing their marketing spends in these two zones. With regards to red zone and, let's say, containment areas, what I would recommend is uh, do a pilot. If there are certain courier partners like Pharmaship, they might be able to deliver to certain red zones, and the situation is changing on a daily basis. Both we get updated from a lot of people like Arvind on what pin codes are getting served right now, and we use those set of pin codes for the ad optimization as well. So majority of the budgets and all go towards your green and orange zones. So I would suggest just understand what kind of delivery efficiencies are you're getting from your red zones, and accordingly take a call and bring back your sales up to speed, at least from the green and orange zones. That's a pretty big chunk as well to target. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Rohit. The next question is also for Rohin. Is it advisable to remove cash on delivery as a payment method till the time the situation subsides?
Well, that's a tricky question actually, because India actually runs on COD, unlike the other Western countries. And I think Arvind has spent a good 5 minutes time to explain what kind of COD challenges last mile delivery guys are facing right now. But essentially the behavior of, let's say, an end user moving from a COD to non-COD payment methods will take some more time. People are still more comfortable with doing COD options. Having said that, what companies are trying to do, the delivery companies and Mamaship, these guys are trying to do is that uh, even at the delivery time, what they are doing is they are using digital payment methods. Just like, let's say, you get the payment done after delivery through Paytm or a Google Pay. So it essentially remains a contactless delivery still. The user or the end user or the buyer is convinced about his safety and, let's say, comfort. But I would suggest keep the COD definitely open. Understand what kind of patterns you are getting on your COD orders, because there might be some areas where COD is getting served smoothly, and there might be some areas where, let's say, probably the red zones where COD is giving you a lot of cancellations or order returns. So I think that analysis will happen only once we have data, and probably a 5 to 7 day data will give us enough numbers to understand where should we serve and where should we not.
Thank you, Rohin. The next question is, which are the carriers active at the moment, and how do the carriers manage non-essential shipments at the moment? I think, Arvind, you can take this question.
Perfect. I think one of the carrier who has been extremely prompt to go live was Delivery. And hats off to the way they actually propel the whole e-commerce logistics during the COVID times. So pretty much most carriers today are active. Delivery. So one is we need to understand which carrier is doing what. If I want to do an intercity and an intracity kind of movement, today there are carriers like Delivery, which is active. Your Expressbee is active. E-commerce, while they have gone live, they're still figuring out in terms of how are they going to manage, because they're currently facing a lot of challenge. They are unsure about the resources available across their pin codes. Whereas for someone like Delivery, which started their intercity services almost 2-3 weeks ago, for them they have undergone through the learning curve to really understand what's happening at a ground level, working closely with the local authorities. Blue Dart has recently started. While Blue Dart is levying a surcharge which is quite sizable, they started by doing a port to port kind of a shipment, and now they have opened up for a door to door kind of shipment. So we are unsure how Blue Dart is currently doing while they are active. FedEx has been the last one to get started in this phase. Hello, am I louder? Okay. FedEx has been one of the latest ones to enter. While we've been discussing with their team to get them started, we've been giving them inputs as to how most carriers are faring and which are the areas that they could actually start focusing on. So they finally started, but FedEx is levying a certain surcharge as well. eCart is live. eCart is also shipping, doing intercity shipments. Now what is important is to understand, hey, how could I do an essential or a non-essential shipments? If you see essential, non-essentials, your pickups and deliveries can happen from most zones, except to a red zone, a delivery of a non-essential may not happen. And there could be a possibility that if within a red zone, if it's a containment area, then there is a challenge. So a containment area delivery and a pickup is not happening. Now when I say containment area, could be either a part of the pin code, or it could be an entire pin code. Carriers are trying to serve the non-containment areas. Containment areas are pretty much stuck. Non-essentials, it's varying from carrier to carrier, while most are doing have started doing non-essentials. But I think today someone who's had the learning curve is Delivery, Expressbee, and fairly Ecom Express and eCard on the intracity kind of thing. I hope this addresses broader concern, because they pretty much cater to almost 90% of the volume, other than what a Flipkart and an Amazon may do. For their captive volume.
Okay. Thank you, Arvind. The next question is, while there are some brands still running their campaigns, is it advisable to resume campaigns at a lower spend or still keep them paused? I think, Rohin, you can take this question.
Yeah. So I think this is a common question I faced across multiple webinars. uh, we strongly suggest to run your campaigns. Don't pause your campaigns. There are multiple angles to it. I'll come to each one of them. So one is that if you look at the patterns of buying your inventory, ad inventory on Facebook or Google or any other platform, those rates are currently right now at a 25% of what they used to be. So technically, what you were doing, let's say in February for a budget of 1 lakh rupees, right now you can do the same. You can have a same reach. You can show as many impressions in 25,000 rupees. So this is definitely a good time to capitalize on the advertising front. Secondly, what has also happened is the reach of audience has increased. So a lot of people who were, let's say, spending less time on Facebook and social media platforms are now spending a lot more time on these on their smartphone devices. So you get a better reach, you get a lower cost of ads, and uh, uh, and I think the only parameter that we generally measure at AdYogi is the number of impressions that we get on the ad. So 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 try doing that. If you are able to see good ROIs matched with a good delivery efficiency as well, then definitely it's a strong reason to scale up the spends. But let's say if you are not able to get a good ROI for your products, and it may be dependent on a product to product basis or a brand to brand basis. But I would sincerely suggest take a take a risk for at least 10-15 days. Chances are that you'll be able to drive a good efficiency on the ad spends, and just correlate it with the delivery efficiency, and then take a call whether to pause or keep running at a low budgets or scale up. By the way, we have at least more than 7 to 8 clients who've actually scaled up their spends from what they were doing in Feb with us. So chances are you might land up in that spot as well. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Rohan. Um, does the type or the price of my product have any relation to RTO? I think, Rohan, you can take this question also.
Yes. So the price definitely has some relationship, and the target segment also has some relationship with the RTO numbers that you see. In our experience, and I'm sure Arvind can probably add a couple of more data points to it. But typically, what we have seen is if you operate in a men's category, you have higher RTOs compared to a women category. Uh, in general, and this is a data which is not only based on the COVID times. This is an overall analysis of, let's say, the broadly the categories. So if you're in men's fashion, probably you need to be a little more careful. Men tend to be a little careless, I guess, and while receiving the orders. Secondly, I think if you look at the geographical split, tier one cities versus tier two and tier three, the connectivity of these courier partners and last mile delivery people is pretty strong and robust in tier one cities, while it has definitely improved for tier two and tier three. But still, it is, let's say, a notch below what we have in tier one. So if your segment is tier one cities, let's say if you're in a premium range, you're selling anything worth upwards of 4-5 thousand rupees, chances are your audience, 80% of the orders will come from tier one top 10 cities. There you might still not see as a high RTO number, but the moment you talk about a tier two or a tier three city, that RTO number might have to be, let's say, there has to be some additional measures to keep the RTO in check. And thirdly, I think one more trend what we have seen is average order value and the price of the product. So again, if you are selling anything which is into a premium category or an aspirational category, uh, people are anxious to receive the product. So they will actually call up the courier partners to check with them, where is my courier? You, let's say, promise 3 days to see if you can deliver it in 2 days. However, the moment you move to a low average order value range, let's say something above below 1,000 or 1,500 rupees, there we have seen generally the RTO rates are higher. So again, a call that businesses will have to take individually based on their numbers, not at an aggregate level. But these are the broad three things which will probably define what kind of RTO rate you should land. So the best case scenario is you are into a woman fashion, a premium product, and catering to catering upwards to an average order value of 3,000-4,000 rupees. So then you should be in a single digit RTO number, and vice versa on the extreme other end. So those are the things I think it should be kept in mind.
Thank you, Rohan. Arvind, would you like to add on to this?
So I think fairly Rohan has covered all important points. Even we've seen this correlation where the moment the average order value is higher and say anywhere about 2000 and it caters to a tier 1 city, the RTOs are actually very less. In fact, to the extent that the RTOs could be anywhere between a 2% to a 4% for an order value greater than 2000 and catering to a tier 1 city. The moment it goes to a tier 2 city, the probability of it an RTO increases considerably. Now, if it's a prepaid shipment, the overall likelihood of an RTO is less than 1%, and those are for genuine reasons. Typically, it happens. There are ground level challenges. For a COD shipment, then it starts touching the higher single digit numbers. Tier 3 cities and the rural areas, typically it starts moving towards a further higher number. Also, what it also depends is on how whether have you got your order confirmation done or not. Pretty much a lot of processes uh, invested would help in ensuring that these RTO numbers can be better controlled. The moment the order value is lesser, typically there are various observations that we have had. Is there are a lot of people who end up ordering 700 rupees ka product that they will end up ordering from 3-4 websites. It's a COD shipment, whichever comes first they will take it, and the remaining are ignored. We've seen some very weird trends in terms of in tier 3 tier 4 cities, an order value around 500-700 rupees jewelry, with fashion jewelry. Typically they sell the highest when it's a Monday, Tuesday, the deliveries happen. The moment it's a Friday, Saturday, typically a Saturday, there are more rejections than RTOs. Now, we don't know why, but there have been various correlations. Maybe they have budgets on which they work. Maybe there is a certain guilt for which they don't take delivery of the shipment because they may have just booked the shipment out of impulse. So we've seen this trend that the moment the order value goes down, there is a decent impact that starts happening. But again, it depends who your target audience is and how well you market it. If you're marketing to the entire India, then maybe yes, you have to be prepared for a higher RTO. Even that's a factor. A coverage of where you intend to target has a direct correlation to what kind of possible RTO orders that you could receive.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you, Arvind. So the next question is, do you have any suggestions for small e-commerce brands into fashion industry on planning their comeback post the crisis? They have also mentioned that they operate in a very tight budget, and fashion being a very non-essential category too. Rohan, can you take this question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a good time for a new brand to get launched in the online commerce market, because typically what happens is that when you start spending for your brand, there are certain decisions and calls that you need to take on your pricing, on your product quality, the competition, and what kind of numbers are you getting from the ads, which is essentially your funnel. That just to give a benchmark to all the listeners. Typically, an e-commerce funnel starts from your impressions to clicks to product page views, multiple product page views, then add to cart, couple of steps for the payment checkout, and finally an order confirmation page. Now, typically the benchmark is that out of 100 clicks that land on your website, 2 to 3% of those clicks should convert as your customers. So to get some statistically significant data, what you need to do is you need to spend some amount of budgets on the marketing channels to understand how the funnel is shaping up for you. And as I just said, the marketing budgets right now are at a very low cost. So you should be able to find a niche of your audience. You should be able to find some trends on what kind of products are getting more clicks, or what kind of categories are getting, let's say, more clicks and finally conversions. So I would suggest, if budgets are limited, start small. Just understand the trends and patterns. There's a vast audience. If you can find a niche, the scale up is not a problem in expand on your learnings from there and take it up. But don't lose out on this time right now to start advertising.
Thank you, Rohan. The next question is, what are the tax during COVID operations and the impacts on the shipments? I think Arvind, you can take this question.
Sure. So primarily today the tats have increased. The tats have increased by almost a day or two, and in some cases the tats are as high as 3 days. Uh, and there are reasons to it. One, what has happened because of COVID. Pre-COVID, carriers were optimizing their entire volume basis demand and supply, for which they would try to connect the shipment on the first mode of transport possible to ensure that there are deliveries. And that's why something called a surface was a pure surface kind of a movement. Now, during COVID, there are challenges that there is a facing when it comes to one, the volume of orders from a certain origin to a destination location. Because of this volume of order, what has happened is they are not being able to optimize it. So they are trying to consolidate the volumes and then they're trying to connect it to the destination. So there are tax which is increased because of this reason. What is the kind of impact that it could have is there are higher rejections. The RTOs, even on a prepaid shipments, are looking abnormal currently, because by the time the order has reached, someone has changed their mind, or the order cannot be delivered because it's moved to a red zone, or or from a green zone it's jumped to a red zone. So there are challenges that have happened, and uh, while for a business, everyone's cautiously trading, but one has to be prepared for the fact that the orders are going to get delayed. A within city shipment is the easiest. Most likely it gets delivered the next day, or the worst case scenario, the subsequent day.
Thank you, Arvind.
Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Arvind. The next question is, what are the differences I would find on pre and post COVID with regard to shipments? I think, Arvind, you can take this question.
What are possible implications of COVID that could happen, which will impact a certain e-commerce? One, the number of e-commerce businesses will potentially increase. A lot of them are reflecting, and they are planning to start their own. Lot more retail businesses who were offline will move digital. From a carrier standpoint, what happens is they would have undergone a decent amount of burn, which means that post this whole COVID thing, they would reflect, and the first step that could potentially happen is they will roll back resources. They would reduce their capacity. In fact, we've been talking to few carriers to understand what's the kind of strategy that they plan to deploy. And one thing that we've seen is there is a higher likelihood that any outsourced locations, they would want to hive that off. Any locations where they have lower volumes, they may want to they may want to deactivate those locations for a brief period. They may have to get back to renegotiating with their investors as well, because the impact is felt across board. From a carrier standpoint, you will see lower coverage, which could also mean that they may come back and increase rates. So one has to be prepared where potentially the logistics cost will go up. There is a very high likelihood that it may go up, because it's a decent amount of loss that most carriers are booking currently. Your coverage may potentially shrink. It may spring back in about 6 to 8 months time, because the market will rebound. The volumes will rebound with more sellers online, people becoming more tech savvy. I think COVID has laid the right foundation for businesses going digital. So we will see a good rebound, but there is going to be a good impact for 1 year post COVID, where we may see little uncertainties, we may see some consolidations that could happen. And it's important from an e-commerce business standpoint that I am geared up for this. I understand what my each partner is doing and hedge my basket. as much as possible, so that I don't ride a risk of anyone shaking in the whole process. Can potentially jeopardize uh, the-
Priya, is there an audio problem or
Arvind, we can't hear you.
okay? I think I can add a couple of points there from a brand's perspective. Meanwhile, I think someone can ping Arvind once for the connection thing. Uh, Hello, am I audible, Priya?
Yeah, Rohan, you can
Oh,
continue.
okay, great. So I think what brands will have to do is now gear up for, let's say, a lot of online commerce. Now it will come in or get ramped up in 3 months or 6 months time is yet to be seen. But what brands will have to now definitely do is what I feel, a lot of orders will move and India will evolve as a market from COD to non-COD payment methods, which is a good thing for a brand considering the chaos that happens on the COD orders. So that is one thing that brands will finally benefit. And secondly, because hopefully the market of for the online should explode, and so brands will be able to, let's say, be little flexible in what types of customers they want to choose. So if, let's say, the volume of e-commerce now grows from, let's say, a certain X billion dollars to, let's say, 2.5x billion dollars over 12 to 15 months time, then it is a good thing for the brand to understand what kind of customers they want to pick up, and whether it makes sense for them to go very restrictive, or let's say with policies like having a good amount of charge on COD orders. So that is something that I think will evolve pretty fast. Other than that, just one recommendation that because of, let's say, COVID uncertainty, the delivery times have increased. What I would recommend all the brands is that give a lot of comfort to your customers who've placed orders. Give them regular updates in terms of whether your product has been picked and packed, whether it has reached the warehouse of the destination, and in how much time will it be delivered. Probably the phone number of the guy who is delivering the order, and some assurances that the guy has been tested, he doesn't have COVID, and so that kind of stuff. So those are the things I think that will probably change in the entire e-commerce scenario pre and post COVID. But but again, it's a big if when the demand starts picking up. So let's hope for the best. Over to you.
Thank you, Rohan. The next question is, what should the current strategy be regarding spending on ads? Will the cost of acquisition come down or go up? Rohan, can you take this question?
Sure. So cost of acquisitions will definitely come down. Cost of acquisition will come down on multiple factors. One is definitely, I've emphasized on it quite a lot, that the ad inventory is right now at a very low value. The budgets that you need to spend to reach out to X number of people is almost going at a 70-75% discount, which means Facebook ads are at a 70% discount right now. So you will definitely get the click cost much cheaper, uh, and and if you target it well, if you understand your customers well, irrespective of your AOV, you should be able to get some conversions from those clicks. And this is based on the data that we've been running for our clients. So cost of acquisition should either definitely be the same if you are trying to expand, or should be at max equal to what you were doing in Jan and Feb.
Thank you, Rohan. The next question is, how would delay, lost, and damaged shipments be addressed in this situation? Arvind, can you take this question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I got disconnected in between some internet challenge. So delays, loss, and damage. Currently, I think except for delivery, other carriers pretty much is going to be the same thing. There are going to be delays, There are no carriers are not going to be contracts with carriers where you have penalties on delays. That's not going to go through. They've rolled back any money back guarantee, or they've rolled back any SLAs currently. Lost and damage, it's on a best effort basis. Carriers like Delivery have actually declared, Delivery, Blue Dart have declared force majeure. Now, what's a force majeure is essentially things which are beyond their control, where they may not be taking claims for loss and damage. Carriers like Expressbee, Ecom Express are still taking. Carriers like Delivery, FedEx, and Blue Dart, they have called it for a force majeure currently. So you may possibly see that, hey, there is a loss and damage and the claims are not going through. While on a best effort basis relationship, you can always figure out, but there are going to be challenges on that front.
Okay. Thank you, Arvind. The next question is how do we market products during the situation as a e-commerce pandemic without being too pushy for the products? I think Rohan, can you take this question?
Yes, absolutely. So again, I think being too pushy for the products again might vary from what kind of product are you selling and to what kind of consumers are you selling that product. So there are few data points that you can try and understand whether the brand is being pushy in terms of the advertising or not. If you just split your audience between customers who've purchased from you and people who have never purchased from your website, just go by what kind of frequency are you serving the ads to these set of audiences. For prospects, you might need to be a little pushy to make them come onto the website, and then probably get more couple of more sessions for them to convert on your website. So the frequency of reaching out to the new audience or the cold audience might be higher compared to the customer base. Customers is that set of audience who have already used your product. They have an opinion about your brand, whether they are super impressed or impressed, or let's say they take it they don't take it very positively as well, but they have had one encounter. So what you need to do is you probably need to go little low on frequency, anything like a frequency of 4 to 6, depending on what kind of average order values you are selling at. That should be, I think, an ideal touch point with your customer audience, and probably slightly higher for the cold audience. Having said that, you need to just keep in mind the kind of budgets you are operating at, and also what kind of potential audience you are targeting. If you target, let's say, a very broad audience, this might you will have to probably restrict it with some filters, because for a very broad audience you probably would need a very large budget. So frequency is one thing which can probably define the pushiness of a brand, and that is a number you should track. After how many clicks are people purchasing your product, just add couple of more clicks there, and then probably you need to give the customer a break to serve him more ads.
Thank you, Rohan. How do we decide on dispatching the orders in red and orange zones? Arvind, can you take this question?
Yeah. So having received an order, couple of things is, one, you need to speak to your existing courier partner and understand whether they have a network, whether they will be able to deliver to that particular location. You need to reconfirm with your buyer as well whether what's the situation in their locality, whether, one, are they seriously looking at buying, taking this order or not. Are there any restrictions in the society per se in terms of courier companies visiting? Is it under a containment zone or not a containment zone? Basis and then understanding whether it's a COD or a non-COD shipment. Understanding if it's a COD, hey, whether in the location they would, whether you can successfully deliver on a carrier side and on the customer side, and take a decision whether you want to pursue the order, or you may want to reject the order, and uh, can and convey why, what challenges are there, because of which you will not be able to deliver. So it's best to be communicate with your carrier as well as your customer, to be sure before dispatching. It may involve a lot of manual intervention in terms of back and forth calls, but it's worth the effort. You get to engage with the customer, and it also helps you build more trust amongst customers, where you are openly sharing what whether it's doable or not doable. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Arvind. I have a interesting question over here. Have you noticed that average or low priced items sell more during this time? If so, should brands introduce more low ticket items online at this time? Rohan, can you take this question?
Yeah, sure. Uh,
Mm.
so I think how we need to look at this data is we need to exclude essentials while let's say coming to a conclusion if low AOV products are selling more compared to pre-COVID era. And in my opinion, the answer is no. Uh, because the essentials are allowed and they are typically below 1,000 rupee products. So I think those are the brands who are, let's say, ramping up pretty well to take advantage of, let's say, the low ad cost, and uh, and and that's probably a reason why more AOV less than 1,000 rupee products are selling more. But having said that, what we have seen is if you're operating at a 40-50% efficiency in a non-essentials category also, 40-50% sorry budgets in a non-essentials category, we've not seen very much difference in terms of the cost of acquisition. If at all there's a change, it has gone in a positive direction. So once I think we resume back to normalcy, I think the balance what there was earlier would probably be the same, plus minus 10% of deviation. Other than that, I don't see a reason of more AOV product selling, more low AOV product selling.
Thank you, Rohan. The next question, I think, Arvind, you can take this. How has the last mile or logistics evolved, which has always been a pain point in the vertical?
Oh, so last mile has undergone an interesting journey from one your shipments. There were times where we would see a document getting delivered to our address, and typically it would be a Blue Dart or a First Flight or a DTDC delivering it, where they would have their franchise who would come home and deliver. Today, to an Amazon, where they have actually activated drop locations. They have activated the local Kirana stores where they provide an option where, hey, I can either go and self collect from this particular location, or alternatively, I get a delivery. Now, for an Amazon to ensure that the delivery is successful, uh, they may possibly come and hand over the parcel to the nearest drop location with whom they have contracted, so that the delivery can happen at the time that you want. And that's a phenomenal experience from a customer standpoint, from where there was a time that a Blue Dart would put that, hey, we missed you, slip in your address, to someone like an Amazon, who's ensuring that you get the parcel at your time because they have activated local drop location. Plus, someone like DMart has played a very important, critical and important role, that when I want to buy orders in bulk, uh, I why do I have to go to a mall or a store and make that purchase when I can order it online, and DMart can bring it at a much discounted price to a location which is very close to our residence, and we can go and pick up the orders from there. So last mile delivery has essentially changed today. As an individual, I am comfortable going and picking it up from the local store, because hey, I may be a working guy who may not reach home before 11 o'clock, or potentially I may be someone who is available only till morning 8 o'clock, and I can still see a delivery which someone like an Amazon has managed to activate. So it's come a long way from a last mile perspective. For carriers, it's evolving. Now there are models like Dunzo who can deliver for a within city kind of shipment at any time. Uh, for companies who are catering into a hyper local model, I can get the shipment delivered in next 4 hours time from the time I have ordered. Maximum 4 hours. Zomato is ensuring that I get the order in about less than an hour or 30 minutes. Domino's has ensured that I get my order in about 30 minutes times from the time I place an order. Uh, to someone who, where I know that I can get an order at a predefined time. Carriers like Blue Dart ensure, they've created structures. They're charging you premium to have your order delivered before morning 10:30 or 12 o'clock. So there are a sea of changes depending on the infrastructure that each of these carriers have set up. And more and more, what we would essentially see is a lot more local transactions that would start happening, and the challenges of last mile would significantly reduce. Because today, I, as a retail store, a kirana store would always have a guy who would go and drop parcels when I receive a when I receive an order from some local resident. And effectively tomorrow I plan to go online, be available to sell products from for the location nearby, or brands tying up with me directly to receive an order and get that order mobilized because they've received an order from a location which is nearby. So it's kind of aggregating the last mile as well. So last mile is undergoing a sea of change, and it's going to get even more simpler and interesting in times to come. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Arvind. Rohan, I think you can take this question. Which type of creative can bring more ROA? For example, videos or display ads, which will work better?
Okay, so interesting question. I think this is a question which will have in general, which is not, let's say, related to difference in patterns due to COVID. All the platforms, all your major social media platforms which bring in the revenue for the brands are majorly pushing towards video inventory. And having said that, some typical examples, let's say there's a fashion brand, and for that fashion brand, Instagram is the best platform, and on Instagram, Insta Stories is one of the best performing platforms. However, when you run a discount, let's say, and you want to promote the discount, a newsfeed ad on Facebook with a big discount number might be a better option for end users to register that there's a discount on the brand, a flat 20% sale or something. But having said that, a lot of new platforms like TikTok are purely video inventory platforms. And from what I understand is that Facebook also has a lot of new video formats coming up, and a lot of push on the video inventory in terms of branding or performance campaigns. So generally, videos will have a long-lasting memory in terms of the end user compared to a static ad. But for now, both are relevant. The trend is definitely moving towards video. Again, I think data can define this for the brands, whether they need to invest more in videos uh, or the static ads. But just one thing, in terms of performance ads, whenever it comes to the term video ads, a lot of brands typically think that video ads are, let's say, a lifestyle photo shoot. You need to hire a graphic designing agency who can shoot the video at a good location with some models and all. For uh, for performance campaigns, the templatized videos also work very well, and that's the standard method that has been adopted by Facebook and Google, where you can just select few products, or you can select a single product, create a video out of it, and you can have multiple templates of the background or the music, and you can change the length of the video as well. So those formats also purely get counted under videos, and those formats actually also give a good ROI on your spends. So don't get disheartened that a lot of video inventory means a lot of cost going in getting those videos created. But even the automatic video creators will work well there. And just keep an eye out. I think videos will definitely eat up major share of the ad revenue in next 6 to 8 months.
Thank you, Rohan. That is the last question for today's session. Before we end this session, we'd love to know what you think. Please answer the poll on your screens. How would you rate this Q&A session? Thank you all participants for making this Q&A session very interesting. We definitely had a lot of interesting questions. Thank you to both the panelists, Rohan and Arvind. We definitely got a lot of inputs from your side. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Priya. Thank you, Rohin. It was a pleasure. I hope there's been a lot for people to understand, and COVID has also given a lot of people time to reflect upon, and it's going to be the next wave of e-commerce that we are expecting.
Thank Thanks a lot, Arvind, and thank you, Priya, for arranging such a smooth webinar. Looking forward to more such webinars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Right. Thank